is why limit people's gender choices is a way of phrasing it. How did I put it? Why deny gender freedom? So that's why you're here. That's why we've invited you. Okay, so I'll give people a chance in a second, but I'll just throw in a couple of ideas, right? Okay, so this problem of gender choices is not a new one. It hasn't come from the sort of the transsexual debate. It's gone way before that, where people are confused about their gender roles, and I think that's been massively destructive to the family unit, and that's why in modern Western societies family units barely function anymore. But let me just quickly explain a few kind of points here. So what is this term about gender? Gender is just a feeling, and it's been brought upon by one person who's particularly interested in making what you call what politely sounds like a nice operation, gender reassignment. Rather, before that it was called something like human sexual organ mutilation, and it was so horrible that they had to make it sound better. Okay, so really it's a question of people feel a certain way, and do you really have an operation based on your feelings? So, for example, if I am bulimic or anorexic, okay, so that means I feel like I'm really fat when you're actually skinny. That doesn't mean I should have an operation so that I'm fattened up. I should look at my actual anatomy and see what's working, what's not. So I just wanted, did you want to have what's his name again? Did you want to give your point of view? Because I saw you put your hand going.
What your definition of gender would be. So it says, why deny gender freedom?
Yeah.
What is gender?
Just a feeling, really. A temperament, so a long-term feeling, maybe. But I don't think it's a particularly scientific term.
Okay. Well, then I would agree with you. I mean, if gender is a feeling, as you described, then you can't deny the freedom to it. It's a feeling. We have the freedom to feel how we feel. I think it's how we conduct ourselves is where the real issue would be. We can't control people's feelings. We shouldn't even try to do that.
100% I agree. So I don't at all ever believe in forcing my opinions on other people. My concern is for individual and societal happiness to just educate people as best as I can. So one incredibly dangerous thing that's happening at the moment are children are going through surgery that are having long-term, but basically permanent damage to their bodies, and I don't think that's to be looked upon lightly. It's a dangerous thing to do. But beyond that, even before these surgeries were happening, I think the destruction of the family unit, because of the lack of understanding about, or lack of belief of what might be termed traditional roles, I think they're incredibly important. Well, people don't understand the knock-on effects. So, for example, in the 1950s, when women started going more to work and not fulfilling their roles, cooking food, etc., that had a knock-on effect that ended up causing what you see as global warming. How is that? Because people stopped cooking at home, and there's a great TED talk which is inadvertently talking about this. People stopped cooking at home and started buying frozen food, and frozen food means shipping food from around the world full of rubbish ingredients, and things have knock-on effects basically.
So it's a long stretch between that and gender identity, but I understand the basic concept. But you said something about surgery and sexual reassignment surgery for children.
Yeah.
The one thing that I think is most bothersome about that is that it's something that cannot be reversed. And if it's with a child and the child makes that decision, as parents, we love our children, we want to support them. I think it's best that a child be of an age where they can make an informed, consenting decision before they go on to doing something that can't be reversed. And then that's a feeling for me. People may disagree with me on that, and there may be scientific studies that back up the opposition. But nevertheless, my concern would be for the whole well-being of the person who undergoes that procedure and what happens when they do it. and it can't be undone.
I think we should all feel like that. We should all feel concerned for people, even if they're not our own children, generally for societal well-being, and that's, I think, it's a good thing to have, whatever your position. Anyway,
A quick one, if I may, yes. This is a very complicated subject, and as a gay man, you'd think I'd know a bit more about it than I actually do. But it is rather complicated, and you know that we've had a debate with the two leaders trying to become prime minister. Several of them, 5 or 6 at start. And there's Penny Mordaunt, who's got a gay brother and is very liberal. She was in Parliament talking about the state of the law at the time, which was this gender situation where it was all right to switch over, and that was that. That man becomes a woman. Now she's rode back on that, and she's now saying that she's a biological woman herself. Every inch of her body is biologically a woman, and she's changed her mind. So she says she can.
so do you agree with her? Do you agree that you're a woman if you got Ted, let me ask you a direct question. If you got male sexual organs and you feel like a woman, are you a woman?
Well, you can go through.
Yes or no?
Well, it's not. You must not. I'm a politician in a way. You mustn't pin me down on those.
Oh, okay. No answer then.
I know a lovely lady called Naomi who was a man and who had a genitalia removed. She explained it to the public and to the Catholic stand over there as clear as daylight.
Sure. I just want to add.
Yes, we can.
Okay, sure. Go on.
I think it's very important that.
So that was that. Then I know of another.
Okay, his turn.
Just a quick finish. Another friend in the gay bar, which I've been going to for 55 years, and is not worth tuppence any longer. It's more or less gone. Anyway, I've met a woman in there, a man in there, who he went through this change of this surgery and so on, and he was wobbling his breast.
Okay, next.
Thank you.
No.
Finish. He got stuck halfway through.
Yeah.
His mind.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Thank you very much. That was very constructive sarcasm.
Yeah.
But the point you made earlier was very important, though, just to clarify that. We just want to be succinct on this video because we don't have infinite time, and also
He doesn't like me getting excited.
5 minutes.
so we're going to go 5 minutes. So it's very important to realise this, that when children, I think that it's absolutely very clear that it's completely overblowing what's going on there. Completely just and whatever the agenda is going on behind that is very
Shall we
disturbing.
step back so people can see what we're talking about? This is what the topic is.
It's very disturbing that they're using maybe 1-2 cases of the whole population of America or the West as some sort of, this is the gold standard. Let's be very clear here that there's huge amounts of psychology that goes into the question, do you really want to have a sex change? It isn't just you wake up one morning and go, all right, feeling female, now's my time to have a sex change. None of that ever happens in reality. The reality is that there is lots of doctors involved, lots of psychology involved, and then and only then does what the question of removing and the procedure and the facets required for a sex change. But let's be also very clear that if you feel like a woman and do choose to have that sex change, then that is the individual's choice. It's not the rest of a government or society to judge somebody that's clearly demonstrated on every level that they feel like they're in the wrong sex in their body. And also, just clarify another point that was brought up, you can have gay couples as a solid and sound family. You can have couples that are gay that bring up children just to be as wonderful and giving and talented and contribute to society as any unit bringing up a child. And there is no question about that, because I think as America has demonstrated that marriage and heterosexual couples are just capable of horrific acts, as any family member are capable of horrific acts. I almost finished.
Sure.
It's down to the person that creates a horrible situation for not only a family but a community. It isn't anything to do with the sexuality or of that nature.
So I just want to to throw in one or two. Do you want to say anything? Okay, sorry. So anyway, so my quick few points, and I'll let you jump in and have the last word. I always like having other people have the last word. Is that I'm really concerned about people suffering from body image issues, and I think that's kind of the underlying cause here. That people are, especially women, have been over-sexualized because of their appearance, and then they feel really uncomfortable because if they're not feminine enough and all this kind of stuff. And I would say, and there have been studies done on this, that people where in countries where women are more covered up, they don't have the same body image issues. Like if you're, like even if I was forced to wear clothes that show off my bodily parts and I had to always look my best all the time, I would feel uncomfortable and lacking in confidence, and then I might question, am I manly enough? Maybe I should be something else. And I think that's one of the major problems behind this, and I think that's one thing we should be dealing with rather than getting people to have surgeries really quickly. And the other point about people, there's lots of surgeons going around and making sure that surgery is not done by accident, psychologists. From what I understand, there's a new default, which is if you feel like you're a woman when you're a man, which the psychologists are being told to agree with it. So I'm not sure if that's 100% true, but
Having a psychologist.
that's what I've understood from a clinical psychologist called Jordan Peterson. Maybe he's lying, but I doubt he's lying on video. But anyway.
Jordan Peterson is a man of extreme capabilities, but fundamentally he uses his talents to confuse reality, not actually confirm how reality is for an individual and the true feelings that an individual feels if they generally feel if they're in the wrong body. And it's just not a whim. It's implied that it's some whimsical thought that an individual.
Sure. So you're saying he's very clever at manipulating people.
He and others of that nature are incredibly.
I want to. So my friend here, would you like to say something?
It depends on how you define gender, because there's a scientific gender.
So in the beginning, we just said it was basically a feeling, and what I consider it not scientific term.
There are two possibilities. If you consider a male and female, scientifically, a male is a male. No matter what you do to him, he remains a male, and the female, whatever you do to her, she remains a female. So scientifically, that is a fact.
So sex is sex, but how is sex different to gender?
I haven't finished. But if you define gender by how people feel, that's a totally different thing. Because if a man feels like a woman, it doesn't make him a woman, but he feels like a woman, and he can act like a woman, he can dress as a woman, he can do all the things he wants to do, and be in his mind at least a woman. He may not be accepted as a woman by some people, but that's his problem. Same with a woman. If she wants to become a man, she can do what she can. She can become a man, although she can't really. But there we are. And if she dresses like a man, she'll be treated like a man by some people, not by others, because it's simply a question of identification of the individual, how they feel, but also it's also a question of a scientific fact that a man is a man and a woman is a woman.
So I think we generally agree that there's a thing called sex and another thing called gender, and gender is quite a different thing and a bit ambiguous.
In regard to sex, a person is not born with a determined sexual feeling. He's born as a boy or a girl, but he doesn't develop, or she doesn't develop as a sexual being until much later in their life. When I say much later, in their early primary school.
So you're getting into homosexuality, but I want to stick with gender. When you say that, if you're born with male sexual organs, are you more likely to behave like a man or not?
It depends on your environment, because people's environment determines almost everything about the way they behave.
So did you know that even like you were talking about different kind of monkey, and I can't remember them vaguely, what was the type of monkey you said? Bonobo, right? So they talk about at least chimpanzees, right? But anyway, even different kinds of apes, if they're born female, they do things like they're more attracted to other children, and they even carry bits of wood as if they're babies. like human girls are attracted to dolls.
No, because animals, apart from human beings, all other animals act and behave the way that they do because they're fixed in a very, very predetermined situation. A gorilla or an ape or whatever animal remains that because the animal does not and cannot change its environment. Human beings are the one exception. Because human beings can change their environment, they become susceptible to all sorts of influences, and influences that are creative influences, artistic influences, whatever. If a person like a boy becomes affected by the fact that he has female feelings,
Sure.
then they may become a homosexual.
So you're basically saying,
they want him to become a woman, but that
Sure.
depends on their environment.
so you're saying that your environment could affect how you behave, but what about your environment within? So I think that there are no accidents in our very complicated and well-organized design. I mean, yeah, I do believe in God, but I think it's very reasonable to believe in God given the incredible design, right? Okay, so my point is that if we have, say, male sexual organs, it means a whole bunch of other things like testosterone levels and how your body functions and all millions and millions of other things, and that does affect your behavior, and we shouldn't deny that at least.